Welcome to this edition of Move Well. My name is Takia Geddes, and this is Anthony Saul, and we're coming to you with some information about topics that are near and dear to our hearts, and we hope bring some value to your world as you move along your wellness journey and fulfill your desire to move well, both in the world and in your life, and have a good relationship with your body. And so today's topic, we'll jump right in. You can watch previous videos. We kind of go into our backgrounds a little bit, and at the end, we'll offer you a way that you can get in touch with us if you care to know more. So today's topic is stretching, right? Elongating the muscles, and why that's important, and how to do it, and when to incorporate it into your life and your workout regimen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll just jump right in. You know, I think the topic itself is important because I think it's part of creating balance, right? So when you contract something, you also eventually need to relax it, or tension remains. And tension built up over time leads to injury, leads to a lack of sensitivity, a lack of the ability to fire the muscle correctly when there's excess tone all the time. We have a front and back body, and we have muscle groups that work together all over our bodies that work in concert. When one contracts, the other relaxes. And I find so often that for many of the people that I work with, a lot of their discomfort in their body is due to an imbalance of tension around joints. And held tension and excess tone in certain groups of muscles that disallow the partner muscle group to expand and contract the way it's designed to. So stretching, elongating versus contracting, right? Contracting is when we're building, and elongating is part of the healing process and also the preparatory process. Do you want to get in on that aspect, Anthony?
Yeah, no, I think stretching and warming up and all of this it's a very broad or it's a very wide conversation, and it means a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, I think the root of it is just making sure that, like you said, your muscles are elongated and it's just allowing your body to move in any kind of way that the modalities that it's designed to make. So once we find a lot of the time that when we spend a lot of time of our lives sitting too much and just not stretching and not making that dynamic warm up a part of our lives, that the muscles tend to shorten up because it takes energy to exert itself, right? It takes energy to elongate and kind of perform well. So without properly preparing the muscles and constantly making stretching a part of your life, those muscles tend to shrink up, and that's why that typically leads to people like getting shorter over time and stuff like that, and just leads to a lot of the chronic pain that we see. So a big part of my training regimen for myself and my clients typically starts with a dynamic warm-up before any type of exercise. And for me, that I have like a set full body dynamic warm-up that kind of includes all of the different muscle groups, starting from the ankles, the knees, the hips, lower back, the shoulders, and just kind of getting a full body movement to kind of get the heart rate up and get those muscles ready for activity. Wow, my iPad almost fell. But I definitely think stretching can mean a lot of different things, and warming up can mean a lot of different things. It just doesn't have to be a strict like stretching routine. And I know a lot of people like to warm up with things like cardio or jumping jacks or a lot of different modalities. So I think there's a lot of different ways to approach the question for sure of how to stretch and how to incorporate it.
Yes. So I think we both agree on the need for elongation to happen. The thing is, you know, in order for, you know, we're talking the way we work, the way that we accomplish getting more fit, getting more lean muscle mass is by creating tensile strength, you know, tensile contractions, right? Contractions on the fibers of our muscles. And if we are both too long or too short, we have a lack of optimal function, right? So if you're constantly short because you sit all the time and and your posture is off because of it, say your hips start to rotate or your hip flexors start to shorten, so you pull forward, so you don't have access to your hips and extension, which is the only way that you can actually use your glutes, which are a powerful muscle, the most powerful in your body. If you don't have access to the glutes, then you're going to be overworking other muscles in the leg and likely also the back. And so the general rule of thumb is that whatever muscle is not optimally functioning, the joint above and below it are the most affected. And then there's a chain reaction both up and down the body. And so, it's really important that we don't want to minimize the importance of stretching in some way. And so warming up, I think, is really important. I think raising your core temperature, it primes the body, lets it know that it's no longer going to be at rest, right? And there's going to be things that are going to be expected of it that are much more easily performed when you're warm. It's like if you have a rubber band, like just a regular rubber band, and you put it in the freezer, and then you pull it out of the freezer and you try to shoot it across the room, the likelihood of it going very far is slim to none. It's going to either snap or it's going to have a very poor performance, right? But if you just even put it in a warmer room where it has more elasticity, more access to its elasticity, then you'll have a better performance. Same issue though, if you melt it to the point where it's beyond its capacity to regain and to recoil, then you also decrease its performance and leave yourself susceptible to injury. So this is where it comes in that that how to stretch prior to working out and how to stretch after working out. So prior to working out, you really want to set your body up to move well in the ranges of motion that you're going to be experiencing during the workout, right? So if you know that you're going to be lunging during the workout, then there are certain joints that are actually more important that you have access to their full range of motion than others. Because even if you stood with your arms like this and did a lunge, if everything below your belly button was warm and you had access to your full range, the likelihood of injury is very slim. However, if you don't do a dynamic stretch and let the body know that there's certain ranges of motion that you're going to be asking of it, then you increase the chance of injury and or poor performance. So I've worked with a lot of people with post-knee surgery and then some people who have just been sedentary. Over time, so we have synovial fluid that, basically is natural lubricant in our joints. And sometimes because of your lack of hydration or your lack of activity, or the climate you're in, depending, there's a lot of factors. It can take a minute for the synovial fluid to kind of begin to lubricate the joint enough for it to move in its correct range of motion, its full range of motion without discomfort, right? Especially post some kind of traumatic issue. And so this is another reason why we want to move our body in ranges of motion that we are going to be expecting it to receive load and move dynamically in and out of. So this speaks to your point, Anthony, about doing a dynamic warm-up. This is what we mean. Some people, we say words like dynamic warm-up, and not everyone kind of knows what that is. So basically, if you think about what you're going to be doing in today's workout, kind of mimic the ranges of motion that you put your body into slowly and over a period of maybe 5 to 10 minutes as you're warming up. Prepare your body for those ranges of motion so that it can perform more fluidly in them.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are your thoughts on the differences and different applications of dynamic versus static stretching? I feel like static stretching is what people may think about when they think of stretching, touching your toes, doing like a butterfly stretch, or doing those kind of like routine static stretches that we might have learned in gym class or something like that. When do you feel like they should be applied opposed to dynamic and vice versa?
Sure. So we touched a little bit about the excess tension that gets stored in our muscles over time and as a result of an intense workout. And so post-workout or in between sets, a shorter you can use it for a couple different ways, right? So if you know that you are, let's say you have an issue with rounded shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
and you know you still need to do chest because part of the rounded shoulder issue is that your pecs get short and weak. So you're not just going to do back, because you also then, once you create, more activity in the back, you then have to have something support the new posture you're creating. So you need, musculature and tone in your pecs as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so it keeps, and so more tone here keeps the muscles in the back from having to always be on stretch, which happens when you're rounded, right? So in a workout where you have rounded shoulders, shortened pectoral muscles, and you're, doing an intense chest workout, it might be beneficial to, in between sets of chest press, to give a 10 to 20 second stretch, and then just give a little activation before you start your next set.
Mm-hmm.
This because you already started short.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're basically returning your fibers to their natural length before you then start another set.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on the person and their issues and the kind of current state of their tissue. Post-workout, it can be helpful, especially if you have problem areas. Like if, say, you sit a lot, it can be very beneficial to revisit the areas that tend to hold a lot of tension because of stress, or because you worked a muscle group that day that created a lot of tension in a certain area. And you would hold that stretch for longer periods of time, anywhere from 20 seconds up to a minute and a half, depending on, your routine. And so breathing along with that stretching routine helps a lot to release tension. A lot of times I see people try to stretch and they're tensing the muscle that they're trying to stretch, which obviously is that opposed effort.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about dynamic stretching, which so dynamic stretching is what you do before to prepare for movement. And in that, you're just holding the stretches in from 3 to 5 seconds. You're going into the tension, holding it, 3, 2, 1, coming out. And then you can, as you get more and more warm, you can quicken that elongation time in and out of the range as you get closer to your working sets, because you're going to be likely either, depending on what you're doing that day, but either way, you're going to be pushing load that's heavier than you've been moving in your warm up. So if you move quickly, you'll recruit more help, right? So those are the 3 times. So I basically use static stretching and dynamic stretching the most is in a setting of a workout itself. Also on days off when you're healing and rejuvenating, those are great days to also do more static stretching. I find that that you still want to be warm when you stretch. You really don't want to ever stretch cold. So you can either take a hot shower or a hot bath and then move into stretching, or go for a 5-minute walk, or, just move enough that your core temperature raises so that you have some blood flow into the tissue, so that you're not just stretching kind of the carcass of your tissue, dry tissue, right? Because dry tissue doesn't stretch well. We talked about the rubber band in the freezer.
Yeah, just to touch back on static stretching a little bit, I really love the idea of adding static stretching in post-workout, after a good workout where we got your full body going. Your muscles are right now the warmest that they're going to be at any part of your day, right? Because you just got done moving, you just got done exercising. And then adding static stretching in at the end to kind of just take that moment to cool down and let your body kind of get back to homeostasis, instead of just finishing the workout right there and just going on about your regular day. Taking that 5 to 10 minutes at the end of your workout to kind of work on getting your muscles into the range of motion that they might not be so necessarily comfortable going. So if touching your toes tends to be a challenge because your hamstrings or hips are tight, taking that moment to go down, touch, reaching for your toes, just to kind of work on getting to that range of motion and improving that range of motion every time. And it just makes sense to do it then, because that's the opportunity where you're physically active and your muscles are warm. So really important to practicing getting into those ranges of motion that will then contribute to better workouts in the future. getting that full range of motion when we're doing goblet squats or chest press or whatever exercise we're doing that day.
Yes, I frequency is really important. I think people sometimes like take a yoga class once or twice a week and think that that's enough to satisfy their need to elongate. The thing is, stretching is a cumulative benefit. So you'd be better off and have more benefit long term to stretch for 5-10 minutes a day every day than you are to stretch for an hour twice a week. Your body's going to respond and adapt to what you do more frequently than in one-offs.
Yeah, I think stretching more than almost any skill that I see people performing and practicing in the gym is something that you can obviously see very tangible changes in relatively quickly with repetition. So this is always a cool story that I like to tell my clients. There was one summer that I had a job where I was like working in a warehouse and I was standing for long parts of the day, like 8-10 hour stretches where I'd just be standing and walking around the warehouse a lot. And this was a time where I was having back problems from being on my feet so much. Yeah. And I realized that it was because I had severely tight hamstrings. So throughout my day in that warehouse, every 15 to 20 minutes, I'd stop, stretch those hamstrings, doing things like Frankenstein stretch or touching my toes and just constantly working at it. And by the end of that summer, my backhand had started to be relieved. And now it has led to a lifelong change of not having tight hamstrings. And it's like, and it can be one of those things when you have a really tight muscle, you might think that, oh, I'll just always have tight hamstrings or I'll always have tight hips. And through repetition, it's actually something that can really, really change over time, and you can feel the tangible benefits because obviously you're able to get lower, closer to your toes, or you start to feel some of those aches and pains go away over time. And I think the value of pushing that 5 to 15 minutes of stretching every day is so valuable. I always stress, like, if you're spending a long Sunday watching TV and you found yourself, you've been sitting for more like an hour and a half, finding that time to get up and stretch between commercials, or if you're sitting in an office all day, setting a reminder on your phone every 30 minutes to get up, stretch your lower back, stretch your shoulders out, stretch the hips, and just making it a part of your everyday routine. It's like brushing your teeth or tying your shoes. It's just something that you do. Has that snowball effect, like everything else that we talk about with regards to exercise, and it will always lead to a highly successful outcome down the road.
Yes. And so I'll just say this part. I think we've covered a lot. I think we're kind of coming into the ending. Is that even if your goal is strength, no matter what your goal is, if your goal is strength and stretching isn't necessarily your focus, just know that there's benefit to every gain that you can get from working out, whether it's strength or it's aerobic capacity or it's more agility or well. Power, whatever, or just moving well in life. Stretching will help it, because the thing is that you can only get strong in ranges of motion that we have access to.
Absolutely. That was so well put. Yeah.
So the body literally won't allow you to move into ranges of motion and have strength or power in places that you don't go. Right? So if you will, over time, what you don't use, you will lose. So I think that in itself is enough of a motivator to want to at least explore having some kind of a continuous routine for yourself to restore the length of your tissue after workouts and prepare your tissue before the workouts. So that when you're in the workout, you decrease your chances of injury dramatically, and you increase the performance output of your tissue immensely.
Sweet. Yeah, no, I think we covered a lot, and I think that was very, very pointed and well established. So that was a great topic.
Yeah, so good to see you as always, Anthony Saul. And as we said, as we started today's session of Move Well, Anthony and I come on here every week and share some information about lifestyle and wellness, and especially moving well. and reaching our physical goals, which affects every aspect of our lives. My name is Takia Geddes, and I'm the creator of the Connect Life Revolution, as well as a Connect specialist and a lifestyle and life activation coach. And you can find me on Instagram at The True Takia, or at K Life Revolution on Instagram also. And I offer a free consultation. So if you shoot me a DM, I'll definitely get back to you. And I'm happy to talk to you about your goals and how I can help you to achieve them. Anthony, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, and I'm on Instagram at SolidLife98. I've been posting some fitness content on there that you can follow along with, try in the gym on your own, and just DM me with any questions or suggestions or feedback for the podcast. This is actually a viewer suggested topic today that we were able to cover. So we're really excited to kind of give some actual feedback to somebody who's seeking information. So that was very cool.
We have a fake Facebook user who came on and said, really appreciate it. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. It seemed like a timely reminder for them. So we're happy that
That's
you
awesome.
made it on toward the end. This is why we do it. If there's any topic that anyone would like to hear more about, please post in the comments. We're happy to dive into anything that will be helpful for you. Peace and love. See you next week.
Thanks. All right. Bye.